Coordinator Velthak stretched his forearms as he reviewed the latest assignment from the Galactic Council. Another routine survey mission. He had done hundreds of these over his long career, cataloging primitive worlds and their inhabitants. The paperwork always looked the same. New system discovered. Intelligent life detected. Assess threat level. Recommend integration status. This time, the target was a small yellow star called Sol, located in the outer rim of the galaxy. His team had already completed the initial scans from a safe distance. The system contained 8 planets, with only one showing signs of advanced life. The third planet from the star appeared to be covered mostly in water, with large land masses scattered across its surface. Begin detailed analysis. Velthak commanded his team aboard the survey vessel Eternal Wisdom. The ship's powerful sensors turned toward the blue-green world, penetrating its atmosphere to study the creatures living below. The results appeared on his screen within hours. The dominant species called themselves humans. They stood upright on 2 legs, had only 2 arms, and possessed no natural weapons like claws or armor. Their technology was laughably primitive. They still burned chemical fuels to power their vehicles and had barely managed to leave their home planet. "Sir, we're detecting some activity on their moon," reported survey specialist Krintle, her tentacles dancing over her console. "It appears to be a small research station with perhaps a dozen inhabitants." Velthak nodded. "What about the neighboring planet? Any presence there?" "Yes, sir. Mars, they call it. Several small colonies, maybe a few hundred individuals total, all connected to the home world by slow chemical rockets." This was exactly what Velthak expected. Young species always followed the same pattern. They would establish tiny outposts on nearby worlds, thinking they were great explorers. In reality, they were still babies taking their first steps into a dangerous galaxy. He pulled up the threat assessment matrix on his display. Physical capabilities, minimal. Technology level, primitive. Military potential, negligible. Space presence, barely detectable. The computer calculated their threat rating as 0.2 out of 100. Even. Aggressive species usually rated at least a 15. Peaceful. Herbivores from garden worlds typically scored a 5. Fascinating, muttered Dr. Zephyr, the team's xenobiologist. These humans appear to be omnivores, but their society shows no signs of the usual predatory organization. They seem to have developed beyond their aggressive instincts. Velthak examined the cultural data streaming from their observation drones. The humans had dozens of separate nations on their world, but they weren't actively fighting each other. Their global communication network buzzed with information sharing, entertainment, and commerce. Most interesting of all, they had established something called the United Nations, where representatives from different regions worked together to solve problems. Classic Tier 7 protectorate material, Velthak concluded. They've outgrown their primitive territorial disputes, but lack the technology to defend themselves against galactic threats. They'll be grateful for our protection. He began drafting his official report. The humans possessed several useful qualities that would benefit the Galactic Council. Their world was rich in water and organic compounds. Their population was large enough to provide a decent labor force. Most importantly, their peaceful nature meant they would integrate smoothly into the Council's protection system without causing trouble. The Galactic Council had perfected this process over millions of years. Young species were given simple choices: accept protection and guidance from their betters, or face the countless dangers of the galaxy alone. Pirates, raiders, cosmic storms, resource wars between major powers. The universe was full of threats that could wipe out an unprepared civilization overnight. In exchange for safety, protectorate species provided resources, labor, and cultural diversity to enrich council society. It was a fair arrangement that benefited everyone involved. The protected species got to survive and grow under expert guidance, while the council gained new worlds to expand their peaceful empire. Volthak had seen the process work smoothly hundreds of times. The pattern never varied. Initial contact would be made with great ceremony to show the council's power and benevolence. The local leaders would be overwhelmed by the technology on display and grateful for the opportunity to join galactic civilization. A few primitive species had initially hesitated, but they always came around once the benefits were explained properly. He transmitted his completed report to the council chambers on Proxima Central. Within days, the response came back. The High Council had reviewed the data and agreed with his assessment. Earth would be invited to join as a Tier 7 protectorate. Ambassador Prime Colinth would personally lead the contact mission, bringing gifts and an offer of friendship. Prepare the Golden Fleet for departure, came the official order. Standard first contact protocols. Full ceremonial display authorized. Lothak smiled as he imagined the humans' reaction to seeing the magnificent council ships arriving at their world. 12 massive vessels, each one larger than anything the humans had ever built, gleaming with advanced alloys and powered by stellar engines. The sight alone would demonstrate the vast gap between human technology and galactic civilization. The fleet would approach slowly, broadcasting messages of peace and friendship in the human language. Ambassador Colinth would invite their leaders aboard the flagship to discuss terms. The humans would be given a tour of technologies beyond their wildest dreams, then offered the chance to share in that knowledge and protection. It would be another successful integration, adding one more world to the Council's ever-growing family of protected species. Velthuk began preparing for his next assignment, already thinking about the serving missions waiting in his queue. Another routine day in the life of a galactic coordinator. Ambassador Prime Colinth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Behind him, 11 other Council vessels maintained perfect formation, their golden hulls reflecting the light of the system's yellow star. Each ship stretched over 3 kilometers in length, their elegant curves designed to inspire both awe and respect in primitive species. Encountering galactic civilization for the first time, broadcasting greeting message on all human frequencies, reported Communications Officer Veltar. Message translates as follows. Greetings, people of Earth. We are representatives of the Galactic Council, bringing offers of friendship and protection to your world. The response came faster than expected. A transmission from Earth's surface, originating from what their databases indicated was the United Nations headquarters. The human who appeared on screen was middle-aged with graying hair and wearing formal attire. He spoke calmly, showing no signs of the shock or amazement that usually accompanied first contact. This is Secretary General Chen Martinez of the United Nations. We acknowledge your presence in our system and appreciate your peaceful intentions. We would be willing to meet with your representatives to discuss your proposals. Colinth noted with mild surprise that Martinez didn't seem overwhelmed by the massive ships hovering near his world. Perhaps humans were better at controlling their emotions than most primitive species. That could be useful in their eventual integration into Council society. Excellent, Colinth replied. We invite your leaders to join us aboard our vessel. We have much to show you and many gifts to share. Martinez shook his head politely. We appreciate the offer, but we would prefer to meet on neutral ground. Our space station in orbit around the moon could serve as a suitable location. This was unusual. Most species couldn't wait to see the inside of a council ship. But Debianth was experienced in dealing with nervous primitives. Some needed more time to adjust to the reality of galactic civilization. The meeting took place 2 days later aboard the human lunar station. Colinth brought a small team, including cultural specialists and technical advisors. The station itself was crewed by galactic standards, built from metal alloys and powered by primitive fusion reactors. But it was functional, and the humans had clearly put considerable effort into making their guests comfortable. Martinez led the human delegation, accompanied by representatives from various Earth nations and their scientific community. They listened politely as Colinth explained the benefits of joining the Galactic Council: protection from hostile forces, access to advanced technology, trade opportunities with thousands of different worlds, cultural exchange with species that had solved problems humanity hadn't even discovered yet. "It sounds very generous," Martinez said when the presentation concluded. "But we have some concerns about the terms you've outlined." Colinth leaned forward, interested. "What concerns might those be?" "The protectorate status you're offering seems to place Earth under Council authority in matters of defense, trade, and technological development. We would essentially become a dependent territory rather than an equal partner." This was expected. Young species often struggle to understand their place in the galactic hierarchy. "Your world is not yet ready for full independence," Colinth explained patiently. "The galaxy contains threats that could destroy your entire civilization. The Void Hunters alone have consumed over 50 worlds in the past century. Without Council protection, humanity would not survive its first encounter with such forces." Martinez nodded thoughtfully. "We understand the risks you're describing, but we've decided to decline your offer." The words hung in the air like an impossible statement. Colinth blinked his large eyes, certain he had misunderstood the translation software. "I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?" "We appreciate the Galactic Council's offer of protection and partnership," Martinez said clearly, "but humanity chooses to remain independent. We'll face whatever challenges come our way and figure out solutions as we go." Colinth's cultural advisors exchanged bewildered glances. In their combined experience covering thousands of first contacts, no species had ever refused Council protection. The concept was as alien to them as their technology was to humanity. "Perhaps you don't understand the magnitude of the threats facing unprotected worlds," said cultural specialist Mordek. "Species that reject Council guidance rarely survive more than a few decades. The galaxy is not a safe place for the naive." "We're not naive," replied Dr. Sarah Chun, one of the human scientists. "We've studied your historical records that you shared with us. We understand that joining the Council means giving up our independence in exchange for safety. Some of our people think that's a fair trade. Others believe we should make our own way." "And your final decision represents which group?" asked Colinth. "Both, in a way," Martinez answered. "We've decided that we'd rather fail as free beings than succeed as protected subjects. It's probably not the wisest choice, but it's the human choice." Colinth tried a different approach. "What if we offered a modified arrangement? Perhaps Tier 6 status with greater autonomy in internal affairs." "The fundamental issue remains the same," Martinez said. "Under any Council protectorate system, we would no longer be masters of our own destiny. We fought too hard for self-determination to give it up now, even for the best of reasons." The meeting continued for several more hours, but the humans wouldn't budge from their position. They asked thoughtful questions about galactic politics, trade routes, and potential threats, but they refused to accept any form of Council authority over their world. Finally, Colinth ended the session. "We are disappointed by your decision, but we respect your right to make it. However, we must warn you that the Council cannot be responsible for what happens to unprotected worlds. When you face your first real galactic threat, don't expect us to intervene." Martinez stood and offered his hand in the human gesture of farewell. "We understand. Thank you for respecting our choice." As the Golden Fleet departed from the Sol system, Colin filed his report with growing frustration. Earth would be placed under standard monitoring protocols. When the inevitable disaster struck, perhaps the survivors would be more reasonable about accepting galactic realities. The monitoring station in the Kepler system detected the Void Hunter fleet first. 6 massive black ships, each one bristling with weapons designed to crack planetary crusts and harvest the organic matter below. They were moving toward the Sol system with characteristic efficiency, having apparently chosen Earth as their next feeding ground. Velthak received the alert at his desk on Proxima Central. He stared at the tactical display, watching the red icons creep steadily toward human space. The timing was almost perfect. 3 months had passed since the humans had rejected Council protection. Now they would face the galaxy's most feared predators with nothing but their primitive chemical rockets and brave intentions. Should we warn them? Asked his assistant, a young hegemony officer named Jexstar. Warning them would only create panic, Velthak replied. The humans made their choice. Now they must live with the consequences. He forwarded the intelligence to the Council's military command, recommending they monitor the situation but take no action. The Void Hunters were a known threat that the Council had been fighting for centuries. Their arrival at Earth would serve as a valuable lesson about the realities of galactic politics. The Hunter fleet reached the edge of the Sol system 5 days later. Council observation drones followed at a safe distance, ready to record humanity's final moments for the historical archives. Perhaps the footage would convince other stubborn species to accept protection more readily. The Hunters moved with their usual confidence, spreading their ships in a standard attack formation designed to prevent any escape from the target world. They had perfected this approach over thousands of successful raids. Surround the planet, destroy any defensive forces, then begin the systematic harvesting of organic resources. But something was wrong. The human response wasn't following the expected pattern. Instead of panic broadcasts or desperate pleas for help, Earth's communication networks went completely silent. The orbital stations and lunar colonies powered down their transmitters. Even the small Mars settlements ceased all radio traffic. It was as if the entire human species had simply vanished. Curious behavior, noted Admiral Kethran aboard the observation vessel Silent Watcher. Most species flood the communication spectrum with distress calls when the Hunters arrive. The Void Hunter fleet slowed as they approached Earth's orbital space. Their massive sensors swept the system, searching for signs of the prey that had suddenly gone quiet. They found no ships fleeing toward interstellar space, no defensive formations moving to intercept them. That's when the humans struck. The attack came from everywhere at once. Small craft that had been hiding in the asteroid belt activated unknown stealth systems and descended on the Hunter fleet like angry insects. Ships that appeared to be simple cargo haulers revealed hidden weapon systems more advanced than anything in the Council's databases. The human lunar colonies, apparently abandoned, suddenly blazed with defensive fire. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. Human vessels, impossibly tiny compared to Hunter battleships, began attaching themselves directly to the black hulls of their enemies. The Council observers watched in disbelief as humans in environmental suits cut through armor plating with tools that shouldn't have been able to penetrate Hunter defenses. "They're boarding the Hunter ships," whispered Admiral Kethron. "No species has ever attempted that. Hunter vessels are filled with toxic atmosphere and defended by creatures that can tear through most known armor." The tactical display showed human boarding parties spreading through Hunter ships like infection through a body. Interior sensors recorded brief glimpses of humans fighting in hand-to-hand combat against aliens twice their size, using weapons that seemed to adapt to each new threat they encountered. Within 6 hours, 3 Hunter ships had gone completely dark. Their communication systems died. Their engines stopped. Their weapons fell silent. The remaining 3 vessels attempted to retreat, but human fighters pursued them with speed and agility that defied their apparent technology level. The final hunter ship lasted 12 hours before it too succumbed to human boarding parties. By the time the sun rose over Earth's eastern hemisphere, 6 of the galaxy's most feared warships had been reduced to lifeless hulks. Floating in human space. Admiral Kethron ordered his ship to move closer for detailed scans. What they found sent shock waves through every council world within days. The hunter vessels hadn't just been destroyed. They had been captured intact. Humans were already studying hunter technology, reverse engineering their weapons and defensive systems. More disturbing still, interrogation of captured hunter crews revealed that humans had somehow learned the location of hunter supply bases and staging areas scattered throughout the galaxy. The predators had become prey, and their hunters were already planning follow-up strikes against hunter strongholds. The Council's emergency session lasted for 3 full days. Representatives from 1,000 worlds struggled to understand what they had witnessed. The Void Hunters had been the galaxy's nightmare for millennia, unstoppable forces that even the combined Council fleet avoided when possible. How is this possible? Demanded Councillor Vexenal of the Trade Federation. Our intelligence reports indicated that humans possessed no significant military capability. Velthak stood before the assembled council, his reputation in ruins. The humans concealed their true abilities. They allowed us to see only what they wanted us to see. Then what are their true abilities? Asked the Council Prime. Velthak looked down at his notes, still struggling to believe his own words. We don't know. Our previous assessment was completely wrong. The humans are not a primitive species seeking protection. They are something else entirely. The message from Earth arrived at the Galactic Council headquarters exactly 7 days after the Hunter fleet's destruction. It was brief, transmitted on standard diplomatic frequencies, and addressed to the Council Prime personally. To the Galactic Council leadership. Thank you for your previous offer of protection and partnership. We have carefully considered your warnings about the dangers facing unprotected worlds. After recent events in our system, we have decided to establish our own mutual defense organization. We are now extending membership in the Terran Defense Coalition to any species interested in true partnership rather than protectorate status. Initial membership benefits include shared defense against hostile forces, technology exchange programs, and equal representation in coalition decision-making. Please contact us if you wish to discuss terms. The message was signed by Secretary General Martinez and included tactical data from the Hunter battle that made several council military advisors question everything. They thought they knew about space combat. Council Prime. Axthor read the message 3 times before calling an emergency session. Within hours, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in the Great Chamber on Proxima Central. The debate that followed would reshape galactic politics for generations. This is unacceptable, declared Admiral Zonter of the Council Defense Force. Primitive species cannot simply declare themselves a galactic power and start recruiting our member worlds. They must be brought into line. With what force? Asked Councillor Melvith from the Peaceful Worlds Alliance. They just destroyed 6 hunter ships without losing a single vessel. Our own fleets have never achieved anything close to that level of success against the hunters. The argument might have continued indefinitely, but it was interrupted by urgent news from the Outer Rim territories. 3 council member worlds had formally requested permission to open diplomatic relations with Earth's new coalition. 2 more had submitted preliminary applications for membership. This is spreading faster than we anticipated, warned Intelligence Director Quintal. Our monitoring stations are reporting increased communication, traffic between human representatives and over 40 different worlds. Species that have been loyal council members for centuries are suddenly questioning the benefits of protectorate status. The situation grew worse over the following weeks. Humanity seemed to possess an inexplicable talent for galactic diplomacy. Where the Council had always emphasized the protection they could provide, humans focused on partnerships and shared benefits. Where the Council offered safety in exchange for independence, humans promised security through cooperation between equals. Most damaging of all, the humans backed up their promises with results. Coalition ships began appearing in systems plagued by pirates, working alongside local defense forces to eliminate threats the Council had never been able to completely suppress. Human technical advisors helped member worlds upgrade their industrial capabilities using methods that somehow didn't require giving up technological independence. They're operating completely outside our established framework, complained Councillor Hevrak during one heated session. They refuse to acknowledge the natural hierarchy between advanced and primitive civilizations. Perhaps because they don't consider themselves primitive, suggested Dr. Yelena, the Council's chief xenological advisor. Our psychological profiles of humanity have been fundamentally flawed from the beginning. We assumed they were a young species because their technology appeared limited. We never considered that they might have been deliberately concealing their capabilities. The revelation that came next shattered the Council's understanding of galactic history. Deep analysis of human genetic patterns and archaeological evidence suggested that humanity was far older than originally believed. Their species had been spacefaring for much longer than their current technology indicated. But they had apparently chosen to develop along different lines than most galactic civilizations. They evolved in parallel to us, Dr. Yelena explained to the stunned Council Assembly. While we focused on building larger ships and more powerful weapons, they developed stealth, adaptability, and what can only be described as tactical creativity. They've been watching galactic civilization for centuries, learning our weaknesses while concealing their own strengths. The final blow to Council authority came 6 months after the Hunter battle. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy describing attacks on Hunter strongholds and supply bases. Humans working with their coalition partners had launched a systematic campaign to eliminate the Void Hunter threat permanently. Each attack followed the same pattern. Human forces would identify Hunter installations through methods the Council couldn't understand, then strike with precision that seemed impossible given their apparent technology level. They captured Hunter ships intact, interrogated prisoners to learn the location of other bases, then shared that intelligence with coalition forces for follow-up operations. Within a year, the Void Hunters had been reduced from a galactic mess to scattered remnants hiding in the darkest corners of unexplored space. The threat that had terrorized civilized worlds for millennia had been eliminated by a species the Council had dismissed as harmlessly primitive. The political transformation was swift and irreversible. Over 200 worlds left the Council to join humanity's coalition within 2 years. Many more began demanding changes to their protectorate status, threatening to leave unless they received greater autonomy and representation in Council decisions. Velthak stood in his empty office, packing the last of his personal belongings into storage containers. His career as a survey coordinator had ended along with the Council's age of expansion. There were no more primitive worlds to catalog. No more species seeking protection from galactic dangers. Through his window, he could see the lights of departing ships as another delegation headed toward Earth to negotiate coalition membership. The galaxy was reorganizing itself around new principles that humans had introduced. Partnership instead of protection. Cooperation instead of control. Shared strength instead of dependence on superior powers. He picked up his final report. The document that had started everything by classifying humanity as a negligible threat. The irony wasn't lost on him. In trying to offer protection to a species they thought was helpless, the Council had awakened something that would change the balance of galactic civilization forever. Humanity hadn't needed protection from the galaxy's dangers. The galaxy had needed protection from humanity's hidden potential. And now that potential was reshaping everything, one coalition partner at a time.